Welcome aboard Jackson Model Railroad. Today's episode will cover project number 17. It's a Craftsman model kit called Ogden's Bookstore. This kit was originally offered by Kennesaw Trains and Hobbies and was later introduced into the Best catalog. Let's open it up and we'll find out what's included in the kit. First, we have a couple of pages of instructions which include very detailed and colorful pictures. The next item out of the box is the roof card, and then a small bag of trim. And following that is another bag containing the walls. And lastly is another bag of windows and door trim. For a basic structure, I find this a well put together and well packaged kit. Next step is laying out all the parts for the kit and then rereading the instructions, sometimes multiple times. The next step is laying the front facade face down and then taking the back wall and overlaying it so that we can draw a couple of lines. This will help mark out where our bracing needs to go to help our roof supports. Along with these roof supports, we'll also start to cut our bracing for our walls. This will give support to our structure when we start to put it together, and it will also prevent warping when we start to stain and paint our structure. As you can see, I hand measure and hand cut all of my bracing. Eventually, I hope to purchase a device called a chopper, and it helps to cut the bracing at even intervals and nice clean cuts. The side walls of the kit don't have windows or doors, so it's hard to tell. So here I'm marking top and bottom so I keep it straight after looking at the siding to find out which way is up. For attaching the bracing and putting the structure together, I used Titebond wood glue. Here we've completed the bracing. The next step after flipping the walls over is to start the staining process. Unlike previous projects, I haven't gone through the trouble of putting nail holes or lifting clapboards. I've decided to keep this one very basic, so we're just going to stain and then apply a color of paint. Best Products, who offer this kit, also have their own line of stains. However, at this time, I'm still using what's left of my supply of homemade India ink, 10% India ink, and 90% alcohol stain. The next step in the process is cutting out the doors and window trim from the sprues and prepping those for prime and then later paint. I use some blue painter's tape doubled up to hold the windows and doors in place while I prime them. Here we see all the trim and the walls primed and stained and ready for the next step. I've chosen a vintage white to color the walls of this project. It's an inexpensive acrylic craft paint that you can pick up at any one of the large hobby stores. Once again, I've used the sponge technique to give it this distressed look when dabbing it over the top of the stained walls. With the wall painting complete, the next step is to install the windows. I use a canopy glue to attach the clear glazing to the back of the window trims. I've also been experimenting with Eileen's tacky glue, both for the windows and for putting the window trims into the walls. Once the windows and doors are done, I break out my Titebond glue again and we start to assemble the structure. I start with the corner trim and then the top plate of the front facade. Next, I break out my magnetic assembly jig to help put the walls together and keep them square. While I'm waiting for the glue to dry on my walls, I start painting the individual shingles for my shingle roofs. For this project, I'm using some light grays and tans to give different colored shingles. After getting a couple of rows of shingles prepped, I put those aside to dry and I get my jig back out. Here I'm combining my two halves to make a complete structure. Here I flipped the building upside down so I can attach the dentils to the top crown. As you can see, I've already attached some of the advertising to the side of the building. And here's the completed project. Thank you again for joining me here on Jackson Model Railroad. I hope you've enjoyed the construction of project number 17, and I hope you'll join me again, and we'll see you at the next stop.